Blizzard employees trying to balance the game. Okay, that's super cringe. But anyways, yesterday the patch finally dropped. It was a little bit late and it initially already took some time to actually come through. It is the mid-season patch and I have some thoughts on it. Now, the biggest thing about the whole Junkrat joke, by the way, is because the Junkrat nerf kind of slid in there last minute, and what everyone expected was a Sojourn nerf to slide in there last minute, which is not exactly what happened, and it's honestly quite the problem. So yesterday I covered the patch and all the patch notes. I also covered some good news and gave Blizzard the benefit of the doubt when it comes to cosmetics and the future of the battle pass. But today it's time to clown on them a little bit and give you my honest opinions on this current patch, what they did wrong, and what we need to see from Blizzard in the future for the game to even stand a chance. Now, the big thing for me to note is please remember that Overwatch 1, the biggest reason it actually failed was slow patches, right? We had goats for a long time. We had a lot of problems that were not addressed immediately, and people sort of fell off the game. It got extremely bored, it got extremely stale, it got extremely unbalanced at some points. And then the second biggest reason is the lack of actual new content, which would be the physical presence of something that changes the game, similar to a new hero, new map, or new game mode. So far, based off the roadmap, we can give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt as Ramatra's around the corner. They're telling us that a few supports are on the horizon, new maps. They haven't mentioned really any new major game modes, but other than that, the physical presence of new things coming in so far is fine. Stuff like the Halloween event with all new PvE mode, in my opinion, still counts, so I'm not gonna knock them for it quite yet. However, we need to discuss patches because I think they've already dropped the ball quite hard, and hear me out. It's better than Overwatch 1, but with that being said, the time that Overwatch 2 released to today's patch, which is when I'm recording this, which is yesterday's patch, is nearly 6 weeks. 6 weeks is way too long for a patch cycle, in my opinion, especially if they want to keep Overwatch fresh. Now, I'm not going to compare it to every other game. For example, I like to sometimes compare it to Valorant because I'm a Valorant player. Valorant has been updating their game slowly recently, and believe it or not, the player base is going down. There's dead game memes. The game overall feels more stale, and it's going down the wrong section where early on they updated consistently every 2 to 3 weeks, and it kept the game way more fresh. It is important because I see it happen to games over and over and over again, and there is no exception when it comes to Overwatch. Something like Fortnite that does the every other week updates is important. It is important for the game to feel like a true live service and avoid getting extraordinarily stale. However, the frequency of the patch, while extraordinarily important, the next point is the quality of the patch, and this patch was okay. It wasn't terrible, it was okay. There is some serious questioning to be done, however. For example, the Genji nerf is something I was joking about because I like Genji, but luckily, after looking into various pro players and much higher ranked players, I'm not on my own when I feel he was never that oppressive, and instead, a lot of the other flankers or DPS needed a buff instead of Genji getting his nerf. That was a questionable change, but then it goes on, right? For example, Junkrat being nerfed, even if just slightly, is super weird when we don't see a Sojourn nerf, which is someone who has a 95% pick rate in freaking competitive play. Or pro play, sorry, that's insane. That is insane. Now, I know that's different than a ladder. I understand that. But Sojourn is strong. It took me a few games to just start dominating on her. If you have decent hit scan or tracking skills, she is way too strong. And that's coming from someone who has fun completely shitting on people with Sojourn. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be biased here. It's just not an okay thing in the game. And to kind of mix these two together, the quality and frequency, Sombra got to rule in a manner that was beyond frustrating for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Now, Overwatch 1 players who had to endure goats, 6 weeks is light. You're built diff because we knew the stuff we had to endure before. However, this is live service. It is free to play. There are a ton of casuals coming in, and those casuals can rage quit and will not return because they are not as invested as us, and the goal is for this game to grow. The goal is to keep this game alive long term. Precision and speed is needed for patches. Like, it is non-negotiable. And I don't want to be completely like, I gotta be balanced, right? So for example, they did end up nerfing Sombra, which is great. They addressed Zarya, which is fantastic. They did slight tweaks to Kiriko on their own, something that's not too intense, but just slightly to help, you know, adjust her a bit. All this is good. All this is good. However, still, with all that being said, I'm not exactly completely satisfied with the approach. For example, Bastion's been quite underwhelming for the most part, but at the same time, him and Torb weren't even in the game for a long time. Then Mei got disabled. Mei, I don't know. I feel Mei needs a buff, but at the same time, she was disabled for quite some time. She was buggy. Maybe she doesn't need a buff. I don't know, because it's the game. The launch has been quite messy, and trying to figure out the best way to construct, let's say, something like a tier list or metas has been difficult due to that reason. You know what I mean? But still, I'm going to follow through by saying they need to get on it. They need to have updates every other week. And what I'm saying is the reason for that, because what they can do is make more aggressive changes, knowing that 2 weeks later they can revert or adjust them. And it's this confidence that we need in order to have fun and get things to a point that they can be balanced and shifting, because it's a double-edged sword. You do not just want to get the game perfectly balanced and then leave it. As crazy as that sounds, you don't. Also, you can't, because you want to add continuous amounts of hero over a long period of time, as well as maps, which still also affect heroes, even if just slightly. So you can't have this perfectly balanced game for a long period of time. And on top of that, even if you didn't want to add anything, which hopefully they'll never get to, the game will become stale. You want people to be a little bit more powerful and weaker to keep the meta, the game, and the pace continuously shifting. You know, you really need this, or else the game will become stale quickly. And the best way to achieve it, guess what? It's definitely by doing bi-weekly freaking patches, because what they could do is have nerfed Genji, and 2 weeks later, if his statistics or his performance went down substantially, they can revert it, maybe buff him. They could have, instead of nerfing freaking Genji, maybe have buffed Cassidy and all the other freaking all the other underperforming flankers and DPS to see if that brings everything up. They can give Mei some crazy new amount of damage, and then if it doesn't work, just revert it or just fix it. But this literally only works with bi-weekly patches, because imagine if Mei could one-shot you for some reason because they overtuned her, and then instead of waiting 2 weeks, you wait 6 weeks, like they had to do with Sombra. It's so important for Blizzard to get on it. They need to shift it up, and this is a little bit concerning because it is launch month, or the first launch month and a half, and if they're not gonna work overtime right now, I don't know when. But hey, you know, I've been honest with you guys. I've kept open-minded. I've kept very optimistic, like yesterday's video about the reworks on the cosmetics. A lot of people are pessimistic, which is good. It's good for them to be pessimistic. A lot of you don't believe Blizzard will do any good, and I'm gonna stay with you guys on that, and I'm ready to call them out at any moment, but I'm gonna keep an open mind just for the sake of Overwatch.